Hurry up!
Hi, I'm Jomo.
And I'm Kyle.
And you're watching Time Attack,
the only video game show on the internet.
And we have just 15 minutes to talk about Pokemon Blue, Red, and Yellow. Starting the clock now. All right, a game that needs absolutely no introduction. The original Pokemon games for the Game Boy, not even the Game Boy Color, even though they could be played on the Game Boy Color. How do you describe it? An RPG? You capture Pokemon, pocket monsters, and use them in battle as you try to become the Pokemon Master by capturing all the Pokemon. You got to catch them all. And
you have to.
Well, you know what's really funny is I have never actually caught all the Pokemon in any Pokemon game.
Really?
Yeah, it's always been about the battling for me. Yeah, so it's kind of funny. And beating the Elite Four, getting all the gym badges and becoming the Pokemon champion. You're the toughest Pokemon trainer. You whip these Pokemon. You fainted them multiple times. Yep. You know, they fought till they couldn't even look. They just faint. You know?
Yeah. Well, and this is where it all started, right? Like, yeah. This was basically a simultaneous release in the West with the anime, and I believe the trading card game was all in the same window. So, take your picks. You got your start with Pokemon with one of these three things.
I believe so. I know that the games, I think the cards came after in Japan. Like, we got everything after Japan had it. The card game had been out a long time, but I think for us, everything kind of came all in one wave.
Yeah.
They swarmed us.
For me, it was like I was watching the anime, and then it's like, oh, there's a game. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. So I got into the game, and my only experience with RPGs prior would have been like Mario RPG. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't like a big RPG nut, but I did like the idea that it's kind of like, Mario RPG, but instead of just having like these 5 options for your characters, there's literally 151 options.
Yeah.
And you can mix and match them however you want. That was just so appealing.
My first experience was through the cards, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I think a year or so later, I got into the games, but I didn't have one. I remember borrowing one from a friend, gave me his Game Boy, and I was playing the Elite Four. Like, that's my earliest memory. With Blastoise just surfing everything.
Yeah.
But my first game was actually Yellow, and I think I got that maybe a year after that.
Well, you caught me off guard. I thought we were talking about Red and Blue, and you threw Yellow in there. They're essentially the same.
I said, yeah, they're all the same.
Well, Yellow is the most different. It's got the tie-ins to the show, right?
Well, yes, but generally it's like 90% the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, but back in the day, it was like, they call it the special Pikachu edition version. It was a big deal. I do love that one.
I would say it is the definitive of the three. Like, if you got to play one, Yellow is the one to get.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If you never played them,
by a hair.
Yeah. But, I mean, just, it's hard to, it's so ingrained in me. Like, what beats grass? What beats rock?
Mm-hmm.
That's just so ingrained in me. It's like, where do I start with Pokemon, like these games?
Well, definitely like the easy to pick up, difficult to master. Mm-hmm. It's the most approachable RPG imaginable, but there's so much hidden depth and variety, which you would know more than me because you're like the competitive player. I'm I'll beat the gym leaders guy.
Well, in the very first ones, there was some variation in terms of the stats. There were the items you can get like calcium and a couple other ones where you would boost up the stats also. They only had one stat for special, and that was like special attack. Mm-hmm. And I think that counted for your special defense as well, actually. It was just one big stat. So once they got gold and silver, they started to change a couple different things.
Well, this is the foundational game. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like, obviously they've surpassed it in many ways, but for nostalgia's sake, I mean, this is the most pure form.
Oh, yeah. It's just, there's something really magical about it because, you had a show that came out that was animated, and you had the game that we were playing, and you had cards. So yeah, all these things came together. But strictly talking about the game, there's something like just so fun about it. Like, especially when you just start, you pick your starter, you're seeing them level up, they learn a new move, and the move is way better, and you're able to take down like monsters that were a lot harder before. Like, let's say you have Charmander and you learn Ember, and now like Metapod, Weedle, Caterpie, all those guys are done. So like 2 hits.
Well,
of
that
Ember
starter,
done.
like, depending which one you pick, it makes like the early game easier or harder, right? But yeah, the thing about Pokemon for me, people talk about like any kind of RPG or first-person shooter as like a power fantasy or this or that. It makes you feel a certain way. Pokemon is very much like It's almost like when you're a kid playing it, it's like a fantasy of going on an adventure, because in the context of the universe, always this kid, he's like 8 or whatever, he gets his first Pokemon, he just hits the road, he's walking from town to town on foot, meeting strangers, meeting dangerous people.
Yeah.
He goes on this giant adventure, and then like, oh yeah, like you can like, your lizard turns into a dragon, which is like your best friend you can ride around on. It's like, it's such like who wouldn't want to live in that world, And as a kid, I felt that. I was like, I wasn't immersed in that way, whereas like I actually believed I was there, but it had that kind of effect on me where it's like I liked living in that world when I was there.
And it's such limited graphics too. It really relied on your imagination to really take it farther.
Wow, that's the thing though. The whole simultaneous release, it's like it wasn't just the game's graphics or even like the cover art. We had the whole show to fill in the blanks, right?
Yeah. And I think that really just made the entire experience a little bit more mature and just more full. It's interesting. I remember playing with friends, and part of the excitement was like talking with them about, how'd you get that? Some of the puzzles. I remember not reading that much back then. Like, so I've totally skipped some things, or I didn't know how to, do, maybe beat certain gym leaders, or, I think there's that checkpoint where you have to give one of the guards a glass of water or something. You got to go buy a drink. I can't remember what city it is. It's the one with...
Was it Saffron? Like by the casino? Oh, sorry.
Yes. Yeah, that's
Celadon.
Celadon. Yeah.
Casino. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, how do you get this? How do you get there? And someone tells you how to do it or something. Lots of secrets.
That was another big thing too. Like if you're just gonna fight the gym leaders and then the Elite Four, like it's a good game. It's a complete experience. But like I'm sure, same as you, as a kid, you spent so much time like, exploring Lavender Town and like finding all the hidden items everywhere, trying to get Porygon at the casino. Like there was so much to like get distracted by. The Safari Zone.
Yeah. Oh, the Safari Zone. My gosh, like trying to get a Chansey or a Scyther or any of those rare Pokemon.
And being convinced, like, if I throw 3 rocks and some bait and another rock, that's how you get them. I don't think that matters.
Well, I looked it up recently on how to do it, and it's pretty random. Like, it's more like you use a rock, but it just increases the chances of this. And if you do a bait, it just increases. It's very low chances of capturing any of these things. So it's like a low chance of encounter and then a low chance of actually capturing. So it's just... it brings about that whole legendary status of like... Oh, yeah.
So you're just spending hours. You see Scyther finally once. Yeah. And then he runs away. It's shit.
You know what? It's probably a little bit like gambling a little bit. Big time. Because like there's a hit. Even now, it's like, like... I saw it. I saw him. There he is. It's like...
Even like the little things. I remember as a kid, like I had the strategy guide. Yeah. And I'm like, oh shit, Pikachu spawns in Viridian Forest. This is red and blue, right? Yeah. And like, he was pretty rare though.
Yeah.
But you want Pikachu like early on because he's the star of the show.
Yeah, that's right.
So like, I remember like, sitting there grinding it out, looking for that Pikachu. It's like, so yeah, it's definitely like... It's like gambling, right?
It is. Well, it's got that same kind of hit. And I think maybe that's why, it felt so good when you got one of these Pokemon. Yeah. Yeah, like, there's definitely a thrill of, like maybe you can feel it, Imagine, like, you're seeing just, dun, dun, dun. It's in the black shade.
Yeah,
and
it fills in.
And then it's like, oh, man. Like, you're in the tunnel, and you run into Diglets, and then you see a Dugtrio, Holy crap, And it's at level, like, 29 instead of those regular 22s. Yeah. It's like, oh boy, I'm at Pokeballs.
Those caves do suck though. Like I like
the Zubats.
Well, I like the overworld because if you want to run, the battles are random as long as you're in the grass. Yeah. But when you get in the caves, and I know you can use Repel, but then you're not going to see rare Pokemon and you're not going to get experience points. Yeah. So it's like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to walk through and fight a million Zubats. And it's annoying because, like, well, if I go in a straight line, maybe it's less likely to have... It feels like...
Oh, it's weird. It's like, just do it like this, or just move once, then move again. Don't just keep moving.
And it's not so bad early on when it's just, like, point A to point B caves, but later on when you have to, like, push rocks and stuff and go between floors, and it's like, oh, that's a slog.
Do you know about that one cave you have to go through? You have to use Flash, or it's just all black?
Yeah.
I remember as a kid not knowing about Flash and just walking my way through that whole thing. Because like at some point you'll see like caution marks of like, oh, somebody saw you. And then you see the text. And you just keep moving. Just keep moving until you get out somehow.
Just fumble your way out.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah. No, because I remember that, and I remember also like there's the Team Rocket hideout with the directional, they shoot you down to the floor. You're almost like a what's that called, a curling puck or whatever.
Yeah.
Or stone, and it's like you have no control. It's like that almost feels like such like a Zelda thing with like the top down like tile based movement and then like these like conveyor belty things. It's like it's interesting.
There was a lot of puzzle solving.
Yeah.
You know, it makes me wonder, like, as an adult, would they find that game even challenging at all, or was it kind of challenging for its time in terms of like games?
It's not like smarts puzzles though. It's like just learning the right way, trial and error puzzles.
Yeah.
Which I guess in a theory you have to be smart to remember the right way or write it down.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of like you're trying to do a basic puzzle, but you constantly run into randomly generated battles. So then you get distracted by what was I doing again? You know.
Got a question for you.
Yeah.
With rivals, did you ever who'd you name your rival as?
Oh, I think when I was a kid, I just did Ash and Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would put like my friend who also played Pokemon. It's like he's my rival.
Oh.
I'm gonna beat him.
Well, you got that competitive spirit though.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You gotta be
definitely.
better.
Oh, I just wanted. I don't know. It's like I like to immerse myself into it. So the battling has always been the thing for me. So I had a friend who would name his Mewtwo Mew and his like the opposite with Mew, you call it Mewtwo. So like when you see the next Pokemon coming up, you think it's going to be this, but it's actually going to be something else.
out.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like it'd be like if you named your Blastoids Charizard.
Yeah, that'd be actually more devastating.
Yeah,
because the type
advantage. Yeah. So it's like I really liked just that competitive aspect to it, and just like what move you could teach your Pokemon. Like you could teach Charizard Dig.
Yeah.
Or just weird stuff. It's like, whoa, how I didn't know he could use that move. And
that was like I was talking about, like the hidden depth, like certain moves some Pokemon could learn you wouldn't expect them to.
Yeah.
Like again, obviously in future games it became deeper and deeper and deeper. But even in the first game there was like the prototype of what would become, that complexity.
Oh yeah.
But for me as a kid, I was kind of dumb. Like I said, I only played a couple RPGs, right? So
sure.
I picked Charmander, and Charmander, he was pretty good, so he killed a lot of guys for me. Charmander just kept killing guys. I'm like, how come all these new Pokemon I catch and just can't do anything? Because like they're not battling much, right?
Yeah, they're not getting experience.
when I get to the Elite Four, it's like I got Charizard. He's like level 70 or something. He's up there, right? And he's a beast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, these other guys, I don't really need these other guys. They're like level 30. You're like, I had some other decent Pokemon, but they're weak, right? So like Charizard's just tearing through the Elite Four. Boom, boom, boom. And then it's like, oh no, he ran out of moves. He can't do things.
Struggle.
Anymore. Yeah, and it's like I didn't understand that whole mechanic of you only can use it so, even though it clearly says you have this many uses left, and there's an item that replenishes it.
Yeah.
I was like, so when Charizard went down, I think against Lance, like he almost made the whole way, right?
Oh, man.
Lance took him down.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, don't worry, I got 5 other Pokemon. It took all 5's combined effort to beat Lance's last Pokemon because they're all just getting their asses kicked.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's like,
Lance was like the one, man, that you fight him. Oh man, you think like this is it. He's got dragon type Pokemon. Dragons are cool, Oh man, he had like what? 3 Dragonites or something?
When Dragon,
depends
to me,
on what version you play.
In the first game, Dragon wasn't really a fully fleshed out type either, because as a kid I remember learning about like normal, fire, but Dragon...
It wasn't, it's a type in the game, but there's only one move that's a Dragon move type in the original game. It's just Dragon Rage, but it didn't even have an effect. It always just did 40 damage. So it's kind of a really weird type, but Ice was the big thing against.
Ice was another one too that was kind of like on the fringes of being an official type.
No, Ice is a real thing in the original.
Is it?
There's water and ice, but a lot of Pokemon that are ice are water.
Yeah.
Like Lapras, Dugong, Seal.
Well, I think that's what I'm thinking of, is there's no like ice Pokemon, is there?
Jinx is psychic and ice.
But I would say psychic though, right?
Yeah.
We're splitting hairs here, but...
Yeah, but just as pure ice Pokemon, there might be. I just can't come to my head right now because I know we're on time attack. And we don't have much time.
Yeah, well, speaking of time, the other thing we got to touch on is Missing No.
Missing No.
One of the most famous glitches, I would say, in any game.
Oh, yeah. It's
like
huge.
Going down that beach on Cinnabar.
Oh, yeah.
You find Missing No is such a mysterious thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had its own name. It had its own look. It could clearly be done. You could teach it to somebody in like
if you do a certain thing with Missing No and move that truck, the hidden truck near the boat,
and that's where Mew's
underneath that
under
truck.
Yeah.
Like that's a big thing. It's really hard to replicate in the age of the internet. It's just the whole like schoolyard talk, like you were saying,
the rumors and the
like Mew was everywhere. People were saying Mew in their soup. Like.
Oh yeah, it was was a time like no other, really.
Mm-hmm.
And even I remember someone was talking about Pokemon cards, and they're like, I didn't like Pokemon cards, and I had Pokemon cards.
Oh yeah, like my wife has she's like, I had Pokemon cards when I was younger. So okay, whatever. She had like a few. Anyway, I don't want to talk about Pokemon cards. Get to talk about Pokemon the game.
Pokemon the game. Yeah, and it's hard to with all of them, but yeah, it was like it was great. And then you got the trading, obviously.
Yep.
You had to trade to get certain Pokemon for Pokemon to evolve.
You know how much I like Pokemon? I circumvented that whole trading thing because normally you're supposed to have friends, right? Which I did have friends, but like I just bought them all. And I'm not like some rich kid. Like I use those as my gifts. Like it's Christmas. I guess I'll get the other Pokemon. Oh, I guess that's it.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot to talk about with Pokemon.
Yeah, there sure is.
You know, it is time attack, so that's all we get.
Yeah, and that's all you get.
Yeah, so thanks for watching.
See ya.
Time over!